Hi guys, so today I'm going to be doing the Tempo Next Percent review. That was such an awkward transition. I'm probably not going to keep that in, but oh well. So this is obviously Nike's new training shoe. It's supposed to supplement the Alphafly and sort of training for marathon. Well, that's what it's marketed as anyway. So yeah, there's been quite a lot of different reviews about this, and just before I get into it, I'm just going to say I'm not going to mention any of the specs, like the exact weight or stack height. One, purely because it changes for every size, and also I feel like the weight is quite irrelevant because it really depends how it feels on your foot. Like obviously the Alphafly is quite heavy, and so is the Next Percent in comparison to the Streak LT, for example. But you'd much rather race in the you'd much rather race in the Alphafly or Next Percent over the Streak LT. So yeah, I'm going to leave the exact specs out. They're easy to find just on Nike's website or anywhere. There's like sports shoes, Pro Running Direct, anywhere really. Any shoe site sort of has all the weight and all the specs, so you can check them out for yourself. So yeah, even though I won't say the specs, I will say a comparison to a different shoe. So like say for example, the way it feels. If it felt like exactly like the Alphafly, the Next Percent, I'd give it a comparison rather than just saying how it feels. So then you can have a better understanding about exactly how the shoe is. So I know quite a lot of YouTubers or like running shoe review people have been giving it quite a bad review so far. Some of them, I don't want to say much about it, but they've either got like size 14 size feet, or they're not actually very good runners. And I'm saying that as in like the way they're running in the shoe is probably not how it's designed, because they're either running slow or they've got weird forms. But obviously again it's individual opinion, so maybe they just don't like that shoe. But I have seen quite a lot of bad reviews out there, so I was a bit skeptical to try the shoe out. But those bad reviews, for me anyway, are completely wrong. This is actually probably the best training shoe I've used for that sort of like tempo pace down to 5k, maybe 3k pace sessions, depending on the rest. Didn't feel too heavy. It just felt great, really. So the first thing I got from the first impression was it's quite loud. Like, I mean really loud. So when you're running, especially on road, it really like slaps down really loudly. So as long as you're not afraid to get some funny looks if you're doing training in public places, I guess that's not an issue. But I don't know. It is an extremely loud shoe. So pre-warning on that, just so you're not surprised if anyone does have it. Moving on to actually how the shoe feels, I did some strides after my warm up before my session started, and I was actually surprised with how well these felt going at like, I don't know, like 2 minute 800 pace, so like 15 seconds for 100 meters. Just some steady strides. This shoe actually felt amazing. I thought it was going to feel a bit clumpy, even in like the Next Percent. Doing like a stride, especially around the bend, doesn't feel the best. So I actually did a session indoors as well, so it was like a banked bend. I thought I'd add to the awkwardness or how I thought these would feel, but no, they felt absolutely great doing that stride, and they felt really smooth as well. And you can't really notice the bubble as soon as you get into your running. It was a bit noticeable when you put it on, but as soon as you start running, you can't really notice it. So in my actual session, I did quite a long session. It was 2 by a mile with a minute recovery, then 4 minutes recovery, 6 by a K with 90 seconds recovery, 4 minutes recovery, 2 by a mile with a minute recovery, and those were in 4:52s for the first 2 miles, and then like 2:53s to 2:55s, mainly 2:53 or 2:52, sorry, for the Ks, and then also 4:52s again for the miles. So it was sort of that pace, what sort of like, I'd say roughly between 5 and 10k. Obviously the K's been a bit quicker than 10k, and also the miles probably been a bit slower than 10k pace. But yeah, sort of varied between 5 and 10k pace. And for me, this shoe actually felt better than any other shoe I've ever used at that sort of session to train in anyway. Obviously the Next Percent, or I'm trying to think of a different super shoe, but I haven't really tried any out. But so yeah, so literally the best shoe other than a super shoe racing shoe, but you wouldn't want to train in them anyway. So definitely the best shoe I've used to train that sort of distance. And I've used the Saucony Endorphin Speed, the Nike Turbo 2, Nike Turbo 1, all the Streaks, the Zoom Flies. I know that's quite Nike biased, but I also used some Hoka shoes, some Adidas shoes in the past. So this is definitely probably topped everything else so far for me anyway. Really felt good after the session, because obviously you've got quite a big stack height, so it's really supportive. Didn't feel like my feet were getting any like impact what they shouldn't be getting, and also obviously on the banked bend as well, I thought it would start to become a struggle. because it was the first time I trained indoors this year as well, and I don't really have any complaints. It was absolutely perfect the way it felt. I didn't have any niggles afterwards, so the shoe held up absolutely fine. So yeah, so like going on to like the key points and like the positives and negatives that I'm taking away from this is it's a really comfortable shoe. I feel it now. It actually just feels a bit heavy, but it doesn't feel heavy on the foot, as heavy as you'd think anyway. Obviously, if you're used to running in sort of the next percent or any bigger shoe, any super shoe with a big stack height, it won't feel too heavy at all. But it does kind of feel heavy when you're holding them. But it doesn't matter. It's what they feel like on your feet. Very comfortable, very supportive. Obviously, you've got sort of all that support there, and also you've got that big stack height, and then you've got the React foam as well and the Zoom X foam. So that's really comfortable. It is quite a stiff shoe, but it didn't feel too aggressive. So I'm not entirely sure what plate's in here. So if you can let me know, I think it's probably a composite plate or like a plastic plate, but it is quite stiff. But again, it doesn't feel too aggressive when you're pushing off. Some of the things I'm slightly worried about the shoe is obviously the noise. Again, not a big deal at all. I'm also slightly worried about how the durability will be, because it's got a Flyknit upper and it's not notoriously the best durability. And also, these AirPods are still quite a big question for me. I'm scared they're going to get squashed and popped or something like that. And obviously with the turbo, with the tempo, with the turbo, you had a bit where the foam sort of split in between the Zoom X and React. So I'm worried that might happen again, but I guess only time will tell on the durability of these. I'd recommend this shoe for people who obviously training for 5 and 10k and upwards. Again, if you're training for 3k or 1500 tempos, definitely a good shoe to use as well. But it's mainly probably for mileage people. Any sessions, what on the track or on the road or on trail, what are sort of, by trail I mean like gravel, not actual trail. I'd probably stick to trail shoes on there. But any sort of session varying from maybe 3k pace up to marathon pace or even slower. Great shoe. Fartleks, track sessions, intervals, tempos, anything like that. I feel like this shoe would be great. I'm not too sure about if you did a long run sort of session in them, like where you're like reaching like 18 miles and upwards. I don't know why. I just feel like because it's got quite a big drop in. I don't know. This is a complete guess. I just wouldn't feel comfortable doing it for that long in this shoe. That's who I recommend it for, and that's about it. So I hope that quick review sort of helped. If you've got any questions, feel free to comment them down below, and I'll try and reply to them all. Not that we get any clients anyway on our YouTube. But yeah, let me know if you've used them, and also let me know what you think of the design and what shoes you're excited for and what shoes you want to see next, and also what other YouTube videos you want to see next. So thanks for watching, guys. That was going to be a transition out.